So welcome back, everyone. We are live on Facebook, so I do want to say hi to everybody out there. Like us and follow us. We'll share the show afterwards. I have to tell everybody how much I love my show. I do say that a lot, and I love it. And the reason why I love it so much is there's so much great information here. And what networking is all about is maybe it's you, maybe it's someone that you know. Tell them about something that you might have heard here that might have interested you. My next guests have been with me. Many, many times. I have with me Monica May Dunn. She is the CEO of Arizona Escrow and Financial Corporation. She also has with her Annette Anderson, the president of Arizona Escrow Finance and Financial, I'll get it out, you guys, Corporation. I do want you to tell everybody today a little bit about the company, right? And why it's so important for people to listen up and hear something that they might not even realize that they can do and be a part of that could help them immensely. Go ahead.
So Arizona Escrow and Financial Corporation, we specialize in business transactions and commercial escrows. And you just have to think about if you ever need a neutral third party in a transaction or two parties, individuals that are selling, that it's safe to have an escrow company prepare your documents and hold your funds until the agreement is finalized. And then we do everything as whatever is instructed by both parties, the buyer and the seller.
Well, I think mainly what I get from you when I have listened is that you're the middleman, but you do all the work and make sure that you are right there, making sure that everybody's I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and all of that. I know you had something that you brought today, and I want to let you say, kind of what it is, but also get to show it up on Facebook, which is kind of neat. Go ahead.
So one of the things we wanted to talk about today is wire fraud and title fraud is actually really prevalent in our society now. In fact, from 2021 to 2022, they saw a 32% increase in wire fraud transactions. It's just insane how sophisticated these fraudsters are actually getting and how much money they're getting. It's just insane. Yeah. So on our website, we have our wire fraud prevention guide. It also comes up with some tips and things how to protect yourself, and just if something happens to you, how you can report it, how you can possibly get some money back, things like that.
Now, this is all on the website?
It is.
Okay, so I'm going to put that out. It's arizonaescrow.com. And I'm going to put it up again because you know what? This is so important, right? I mean, when it comes to fraud, almost everyone has been affected by that. It used to be that it was just seniors that would be getting these phone calls. Now, when you're talking about wire fraud, I mean, that's another thing that we think, somebody called and my dad wired money. But it's much further than that, correct?
Yes.
Well, let's talk.
In one situation, you can get an email from a fraudster and you won't know that it is, and they will get on your computer and they will just wait and monitor your emails to see, if there is something that you are buying or selling, and then they will intercept those emails and send you wiring instructions that are not the escrow company or the title company's wiring instructions. They send them, that money will go into their account.
That's scary. I mean, just when you sit there and say that they're sitting there waiting, just the fact that when you said that, I got I felt chills kind of almost go down my spine because I got scared of the idea of somebody literally knowing what I'm doing. Okay, fraud. Fraud comes in many ways. First of all, is fraud, you want to describe fraud to everybody what it is, even though most people know?
It's basically impersonating someone in order to divert either funds or titles to property or things like that don't belong to them. So anytime, I guess we used to call them scammers, now we call them fraudsters.
I like that.
Yeah, we change with the times, right? So it's just, you have to be so careful about who you're talking to nowadays, who you're emailing with nowadays, who you're giving account information to. We had a gentleman on before who was talking about Medicare. Medicare fraud is insane. The amount of seniors that are getting a phone call saying, we're from your Medicare company, we need your Medicare number, things like that. So you really have to be careful about who you're talking to.
Oh my gosh, it is so true. And what I've heard more than anything is that even if you say, let's say somebody calls you and they say, hi, is this Carol or whoever? And you say, oh yeah. you have just been recorded, and they use that. There's so many different ways, it's almost, you can't, it's hard to get around it.
It is.
So you have to be very careful. Now, you wanted to talk about fraud, and it's on your website big, especially for when it comes to working with what you do. And I want you to kind of show them how that ties into you and why they should have somebody like you to call and talk and have there, because you're going to make sure that doesn't happen. I know that.
We're gonna do our best.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, there's so many things that you can do. Our main thing that we're always telling folks is if you're getting wiring instructions from anyone, if it's from us, if it's from another title company, if it's from your Uncle Howard who you're gonna be wiring funds to, you need to call the phone number, not necessarily that's on those wiring instructions. Google the company. Make sure you get on Google. Google is your friend, I always say. Google the company. Look at what the phone number is on their website. Call that phone number. Don't call the phone numbers on the wiring instructions, because what they're getting so good at is, like Monica said, they'll intercept wiring instructions. They'll create their own. They'll put their own phone number on it. So even if they are going to call to verify, they're calling that fraudster's phone number to verify those wiring instructions.
I would want to know that I had somebody like you on my side.
Thank
For
you.
me, I mean, to me, I know that, first of all, you've been around, and what's the number,
76.
76, they've been around for a very long time. They're a very reputable company, and what I hear from you the most is that with all of your clients, what you're doing is protecting them.
Yes.
Right? And so their phone number, and they work statewide, is 602-956-2629. The website is ArizonaEscrow.com. Do you want to talk about anything else that they should be aware of?
Well, for wires, one of the things that we do as escrow companies, and this is for buyers, right? If you're depositing your funds with us, you want to make sure your funds get to your seller. So one of the things that we have in place is we have to call and talk to the sellers and say, is this your wiring instructions, to make sure the buyer's funds are actually going to the correct place. And that's one of the protections that we have in place in our personal policy.
So best practices, what are they for people?
Know who you're talking to, know where you're sending your money, verify, 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 verify.
Absolutely.
Stranger danger.
Exactly. We're taught that as kids, right?
As kids,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And yet people don't realize it's so often how it still happens no matter what. I think I think especially when it comes to this, everything looks so official today. Question everything, in
Yes.
pretty much everything. And like she said, Google is your friend. Google the number, make sure that they're the same number, okay? And call the number on the phone number that's on Google, not the number that's on that, whatever they sent to you. And again, be very careful, because the problem is everything looks so official.
It's true.
I mean,
It
you
really
can
does.
get an email that looks official, and if you just hover, you put your cursor over that email address, and look to see where it's coming from. And 9 times out of 10, it's not where it says it's from. So
Right.
just delete it.
Or it could be some letter that's turned, it's amazing. We're gonna go to a break. When we come back, I wanna talk further about this. This is so, so important. But more than anything, really quickly, if you are, have a business, and you need to have somebody that you can rely on. These people are the people to call to be that middleman, right? And to make sure, if you own a building, we talked about
Yes.
that. You got a building, then you own. You don't want to. First of all, don't try and do anything on your own. I really think that's a bad idea.
It's a bad idea.
Yeah, it's a really bad idea. We talked about that
Yes, we
once
did.
before too. So, the main thing is to call somebody that you know that you can trust. Again, they're statewide. Their phone number is 602-956-2629. Let me tell you too, you can call them. It doesn't have to be said. Anybody can call them and talk to them. 602-956-2629. It's ArizonaEscrow.com. Hang tight. We'll be back in just a minute. We're going to keep on talking because
Okay.
we're live in the room.
Sure.
Okay. I love this. I mean, very interesting too. I still also want you to talk about what can happen when you're so that they hear about the transactions that you work
This
with.
will come into more to title fraud. We'll start talking about title fraud.
Okay.
That's where this is probably going to come more into.
So we're perfect on timing.
Yeah, we're perfect
Okay,
on
great.
timing, I think, because the title fraud is actually more of what we do, right?
Okay.
And then there's also, some proactive steps that I think we should mention, for property people who own homes, because it's not just homes and commercial real estate. Where the majority of title fraud is right now is on people who own vacant land, or the elderly who actually own their homes free and clear, things like that. They will go to the title company and impersonate them.
And I've heard through, I have a client that comes on that talks about, she helps people, that's kind of like her fiduciary type of thing, and she does that, and she's talked about it before, where people, they get in trouble and they need somebody to help, because they don't even own the home anymore, apparently.
Yeah, well, once it's done, it's really hard to unwind. So that's where everybody says, oh, we'll sign up for the Maricopa County thing, which is something that we're going to, because they have an escrow, Maricopa County title alert, which if the title of your property transfers, you get an alert. But I'm like, okay, it's done. It's happened.
Right. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
So one tip that I think I'm going to give is like with my father-in-law. My father-in-law owns his house free and clear. So what we did is we went and put a deed of trust on his home. So my husband and his sister have a deed of trust against my father-in-law's home. So there's a lien there. So if something happens where they go to the title company and say, okay, we want to do this, right?
Oh.
My husband and his sister
So it's
get
like
notified
info.
that, yeah. So they
Yeah,
have to be
90
paid
seconds.
off before the transaction can go through. So it's more of a proactive step instead of waiting until afterwards and waiting for
You guys
someone.
are smart. That's a good idea.
I wish I could take credit for that. Somebody else actually
But
told
it
me that.
doesn't matter, but it's a
good
great idea.
Yeah. My husband and I own our house free and clear. We have a HELOC on our home. And part of it's because it's our emergency fund, but also is because it protects us from things like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's so important, and a lot of people don't even ever know to think about it,
No.
right? I think that's the main thing. Here we go.
And Maricopa County has it set up, but all the other counties are set to follow in Jan of 2025.
Right.
I don't know how long.
I'm not sure how they're gonna do that, but
Because some of these counties are so far behind.
What's wrong?
Nothing.
Is it-
Yeah.
especially the smaller counties.
These are your friends?
Especially the smaller counties.
Right, like Cochise.
So welcome back, everyone. We have been talking a little bit about wire fraud, and now we're going to kind of talk about something else that could be business or even residential. And this is about title fraud, and I want you to talk a bit about. I also want you to tell them what you told me during the break. That was pretty neat. So go ahead.
Title fraud is something that we're seeing more and more and more of nationwide. It's just not here in Arizona, it's nationwide. And it's mainly affecting people who, if it's non-owner occupied property or vacant land, and it's free and clear. That way the fraudster can go in, find a buyer, and usually you'll see like, oh my gosh, this is a heck of a deal on this piece of property. Well, they're usually asking like below market value and everything, because they want to offload it quick before someone figures out what they're doing. So they'll go into the title company. The title companies now are actually, and escrow companies are being taught, if you never meet your seller, it's all online, or it's all by email, it's all over phone, right? Things like that. They're things that we are looking for, right? But they're, they want a cash buyer, they don't want to carry paper, right? Or they don't want to have to deal with a lender, things along those lines. These are the kind of transactions title companies are seeing more and more and more of. And unfortunately, by the time you figure out it's happened, it's too late. Your home is gone, your vacant land is gone, your commercial building is gone, right? It's already been transferred, and it's really, really hard to unwind that, because now the buyer has received title insurance and said, hey, I was told that's my property, right?
Right.
So it's really hard, and unfortunately this is something that seems to affect the elderly quite a bit, because they're usually the ones who have their homes that are owned free and clear.
Right, right. And the sad thing is that it can happen right before, underneath your nose, I should say it that way. And the next thing you know, you had mentioned that a lot of people, you'll get an alarm, an alert that it happened, but it's too late.
It's too late.
Yeah.
Yeah, and usually we like to know your customer. Really follow up, know who you're dealing with, your buyer, your seller, your broker, your banker. And then that will mitigate most of the risk as long as you're open and you let them know what the phone number is to call you at to verify any wire instructions. that is very, very important that they call us at our number, 602-956-2629, to verify any wiring instructions you receive.
Again, that's 602-956-2629. And their website is arizonaescrow.com. Some of the things that they can do to protect themselves.
So the Maricopa County Recorder's Office has a title alert system where you can actually go on as a homeowner, put in your parcel number, and register. So if something happens, it'll alert you. But the problem is that is a very reactive step. It's already happened.
Mm-hmm.
So the one thing you want to make sure is that your contact information is correct at the assessor's office, at the recorder's office, all those things, so that when your tax bills, right? If all of a sudden you start not getting your tax bills, then someone has gone on to the assessor's office and basically changed your address, and it's happened. So one of the things that most escrow companies are doing now is when they get a vacant land purchase or they get a home purchase, what they're doing is they're going to the assessor's office, they're looking at the history to see if the address has been changed, and they're sending a letter to the address on the assessor's office saying, hey, thank you so much for opening escrow with us. So that way, if the fraudster hasn't changed that address, they're getting that letter and it's like, okay, hey, wait, I'm not selling my property.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then one thing I mentioned during the break, there's also proactive steps you can take. And I think I told you we did this with my father-in-law. He owns his home in New York free and clear. So what my husband and his sister did is we went and recorded a deed of trust for like $10,000. It's not a big amount, right? The beneficiaries of that deed of trust are my husband and his sister. So if someone does go to try to sell my father-in-law's property, my husband will be contacted and said, hey, we need to pay off for your deed of trust. And that way we're stopping it before it happens.
Right, it's a great idea. And there's something that I want to talk to everybody out there, listen up, is that anybody, and so many of their seniors, they do own their homes free and clear. And anyone that's listening, I believe, and I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it this way, they should call you.
Sure.
Absolutely. Because if you don't do anything, you're just sitting there, you hear this and you go, yeah, that may never happen to me. Well, it could, and you don't know it's happened again until it's too late. I would rather make that phone call and find out what can we do, see even if it has happened.
Right.
The fact is that you could go to do something and it's already done, and now, I hate to say this, but and that's not very good. If they call you and they talk to you and they tell you, and you can check for them, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then what would they do? What would you do then? You might give them an idea of what to do.
For homeowners, we would probably refer them to a doc prep service if they wanted to do that deed of trust. They can do that deed of trust and do it for them. For commercial real estate and for vacant land, we can help them if they're interested in selling. Make sure they get to a good, reputable broker to help them sell it. If you're a buyer and you're looking at a deal that is just too good to be true, because let's face it, we all see it, right? We see this great piece of property. It's vacant land. It's an acre, and usually these acres will go for 175, 200 grand. Someone's asking 125 grand for it, right? That is just too good to be true.
Right.
So if you're a buyer, you need to make sure that, first of all, you're going through a reputable broker as well. So they're checking out that seller, right? And then come to us. We will then do that additional step to make sure the seller is actually who they say they are.
What I also want, and I've said it many times when you've been on before, is that you can call them.
Absolutely.
I think that people don't realize that they can call people like you just right straight to you. They think they have to use whoever they're already using, which could be a problem in itself, correct?
Right.
So they can call you direct, and their phone number is 602-956-2629. It's arizonaescrow.com. Going back to businesses and being, and back to the, obviously these wire transfers and things that happen, which I'm sure you deal with a lot, right? Daily, every day. And I want to go back to, how it starts, let's say, with somebody who wants to either sell their business, and how, when they call you, what that looks like. I want to talk about that.
Well, if they call us and they have either a letter of intent or an actual purchase contract, they would send us the actual contract or the LOI, and then we would open up the escrow. And what we do is we would ask them if they want to use CC search, and that's basically looking up anything that has to do with the seller, to look for any liens, judgments, or anything on the business, taxes, that the buyer would need to know before they purchased.
Yeah, and it's so important. I told you I had a story with somebody who literally that happened, right? And I believe if you won't believe this, but it turned into fraud, that's what it was. I think that happens a lot.
It does.
Right? Some of the stories that you have that would be a horror story, I know I'm throwing this at you, but you
Oh.
know what? I know that people don't realize when these are the kinds of things that can happen to you if you don't listen to shows like this, where else but on Networking Arizona you're gonna learn this, so go ahead and tell them something.
You know, I don't have any stories, like personal stories to tell, but there's just things that have been on the news. Like there's this lovely woman, I think she was in Michigan or Minnesota. All of a sudden, she is getting things in the mail saying that her home is being foreclosed on. Okay, the fraudster had gone out and taken a mortgage against her property.
And guess what?
Yeah, and of course, as an escrow officer, my alarm. Well, wait a minute. They had to have seen a notary, right? Because the notary would have asked for ID. So did they show fake ID, or was a notary in on it? So there's usually, you know, if you get a dishonest notary or something like that, which unfortunately they do exist, right? Who can help the fraudster sign deeds or things like that. You just hear horror stories every day of people, you know, just losing their homes or losing their investment properties or losing their land, just because, you know, they just didn't know.
Right.
It's nothing more than they didn't know it could happen.
Right, I think that's what I love about this show, is that they didn't know that now they know.
Yeah, and the other indication that something might not be right is if someone is very aggressive and wants to push a closing, or, you know, pushing the date within, 48 hours. When you find somebody that's that aggressive, you need to step back and ask a lot of questions.
Yeah, why are you being, it's just, again, that's that too good to be true where that comes in. I think also most importantly is that we have to watch what we're doing on every little thing right now. And seniors tend to not do that, right? And unfortunately, when we're talking about these title fraud, that most of the seniors are the ones that are getting hurt, because they're the ones that, most of them, that own their homes outright, right?
Yes.
A lot of people, like you said, they own land. There's all of these different transactions that are happening now, and when you say that it's scary, the thought that even your notary, now when they come to you, is that all done within your office? How does that work?
All of our escrow officers are notaries in-house, or we do have a reputable notary service that we use nationwide. So if we have to send a notary out to someone, we can.
I was just gonna ask you, because I know you work nationwide, and again, tell them how that works.
So if it's a remote notary service, we actually use a licensed and bonded notary service. They have notaries throughout the country. So let's say if, you know, the seller is in Wyoming and he's selling the property, they will actually go get his ID, send me a copy of his ID. So I actually have a copy of his ID as well. And then we do it that way.
You know, and I'm gonna ask you this, and I'm not sure if it pertains to this or not, but with AI,
Oh gosh.
okay,
Yeah.
so, because now it's even scarier, right? I mean, I get to the point where I'm thinking, with all of these fraudsters, it's like, to me, I think, do you get it that we're kind of being more on top of it? Why don't you stop? But it gets worse and worse and worse every day. When I said AI and you said, oh my gosh.
Well, we went to a cybersecurity seminar, and the guy was saying that they had cloned someone's voices. So when you get the phone call and say, "Mom, I'm in jail," "Mom, I've been kidnapped," you know, that kind of thing. So it'll even get worse with, you know, IDs getting better and things getting better. We just have to be so careful about who we share our personal information with today.
Please do, especially when it comes to things as important as selling a business. You know, you have your land, you have your homes. Please make sure anybody that owns their home outright, listen, give them a call. They're gonna help you.
Guys.
Go up onto their website and check it out. They have all the information there for you to look at. Again, it's ArizonaEscrow.com. They work not only statewide, but nationwide. And you can call them direct, and anyone can call them at 602-956-2629.